Hello, everyone. I am so pleased to have you join us for the second session in our January 2026 webinar series called Exploring Agritourism for Your Farm. I know many of you have operations already, so hopefully you are able to find some nuggets of reminder or inspiration to expand and grow and improve your operation. And for those of you who are just now considering agritourism or in the middle of planning, we hope that this is helpful to you as you take the next step and in learning and analyzing, and also in finding some other folks to visit with and network with and learn from. I'm Megan Leffew. I was with you on the first session. I'm a marketing specialist or an extension specialist in value-added agriculture marketing for the Center for Profitable Agriculture. I'm going to be teaching both topics for you today. And so we're going to be talking about first key concepts for marketing and branding, and then we will jump in to creating the customer experience, which is always fun. Um, I will remind you that we will keep our uh, microphones muted except for the speaker or Shelby Corwin, who I introduced as my colleague who might jump in and redirect me at some point. And we'll keep video off, hopefully to keep the bandwidth down. I think I will try leaving my video on today, but if you are having trouble with bandwidth or I'm freezing up, feel free to let me know and I'll turn that off. And I will do the same. Sometimes our internet gets unstable, and if that happens, I'll turn the video off, and sometimes that will help with that. Please freely use the chat as you have comments, suggestions, or questions at any time, and we will try to answer those. And if you have an answer to a question or something that you would like to share along those lines, please include that in the chat box as well. We'll try to use this virtual environment to have some of the same benefits as if we were in person, although I know that's a little bit difficult. So we're going to start with key concepts for marketing and branding. And marketing is not always the favorite topic of folks in agriculture, especially production agriculture, but it is one of the vital components to creating a successful enterprise. So hopefully we can cover some things today that'll make your marketing more efficient and more effective. Just a reminder that this presentation, as all of these, is for educational purposes only. We are going to talk about some specific brands. Maybe some social media platforms might come up, or if any individuals mentioned in the presentation, those are for examples only, and we don't endorse those in any way. We're just trying to use those as an example. So as we dive into key concepts for marketing and branding, we're going to define those terms. What is marketing and what is branding? We're going to discuss what a target audience is and the importance of that audience. And many of you may have heard that before, but it is so vitally important. I want to make sure that everybody gets to hear that message. Then we'll talk more directly about crafting your farm brand, or if you have a farm brand already, maybe refining that farm brand. Some people may even rebrand at some point in their operation. So we'll talk about some key concepts with that, and then some tips for implementing your brand and getting it out there into the marketplace. So as we do this, I'm going to take a chapter out of Curtis Menken's book and ask you to answer a question in the chat for me. How do you define marketing? Either some terms or phrases or a definition, and we'll check out what you say. Advertisement. That is definitely one that we think of and are inundated with when we are consumers, aren't we? Reaching target customers, fabulous. Sharing your story and product with your customers. Thank you, Katie. That is so very important, as you well know. Strategic. Oh, love it. Absolutely, Alyssa. Fabulous. Those are all really great terms for the young. Getting people to purchase your product, absolutely, market. The process of getting the product and service in front of customers. That's fabulous. Absolutely. So I'm going to share a definition that I like, and part of all of what you mentioned is included in this. So I'm proud of you for your knowledge there, and thank you for your participation. So the definition of marketing that I have found that I like best is marketing is planning and executing a set of objectives to bring buyers and sellers together so a sale can take place. So this includes two verbs, right? Two actions. We have to plan and then execute that plan. Execute the objectives that we put together that will help us bring people who are going to buy our product, which may be our farm product, it may be a service or an experience, right? Together so that a sale can take place. So there's an exchange of money, and hopefully that sale is a profitable one. Sometimes we choose to have a loss or don't have profit right away, but we're working toward a profitable sale can take place. So planning and executing a set of objectives to bring buyers and sellers together so a sale can take place. So that certainly includes some strategy. It includes implementation, includes being strategic. It includes reaching out to customers and making that sale. To do that, we really need to take off our producer hat and glasses and put on a consumer hat and glasses and think about who is going to be the people, or who are going to be the people that are going to purchase our product most often. So marketing is really all about understanding our target customers, along with their needs, values, and preferences, and then developing strategies to reach them. And the strategies that we need to develop are pretty far reaching. Our target customer and their needs, values, and preferences need to influence the products that we produce. What are they interested in buying? What benefits are they needing from a product, service, or experience that we can fulfill for them? What characteristics of that product um, are they wanting and needing and that they're willing to pay for? We price that item in part based on what those customers are willing to pay. We certainly want to think about what it costs us to produce and what the competition is charging. But we don't want to leave any money on the table either for what our customers are willing to pay. So that goes into a price. Our place, and a lot of ours, we're talking about doing on-farm product, services, and experiences. So we have a place set, but we get to determine what that place looks and feels like and what amenities we offer, all the ambiance and the things that go into creating that customer experience that we'll talk about a little bit later. But our customers' needs, values, and preferences need to influence that. How we promote a product is based upon where our consumers are going to find information, what information they use to make purchasing decisions, so that we can tell them about things that are of interest to them and what is most going to entice them. And that goes into the positioning of the product that is really related to our branding and the image that we want to portray to consumers in the marketplace. And the people section there on this slide is related to the service we offer. What level of service? Are we doing pick your own, or are we doing pre-picked is are two different levels of service, for example. If you have a venue, are you renting just the space, or are you a full-on wedding consultant, for some example? So what level of service are you offering? So marketing is really all about understanding your target customers and developing strategies for all of these: product positioning, price, place, promotion, and people around those target customers so that you can reach them and make that sale. So this is really taking a market-driven approach. So if you are looking at developing a new enterprise or adding a new offering or expanding something, really take a look at, is there a need or want in the marketplace that is not already fulfilled that you can fulfill? So is there something missing in the agritourism arena or the tourism arena overall that you can fill with a tour or an agritourism um, operation? And what exactly is needed and valued and preferred there? And then how many people are interested in that, and how many times would they participate in that in a season? What kind of competition exists? What kind of substitutes are out there already for that? And learn as much as you can about them. We really need to take a look at that target audience. Who are those folks that are your ideal customer? And we'll talk about those a little bit more in a minute. But how many of those folks are there? What are their willingness to pay? How often are they going to pay that for a product? What kind of characteristics do they value? What benefit are they looking for out of that product, service, or experience? Um, what kind of convenience factors or service factors are needed? And then how do they communicate and learn information, and where do they go to learn that information? When we're looking at developing an enterprise, this is part of that business planning phase as well that includes some market planning. But it's important to think about, does a profitable market exist? So are there enough consumers out there in that target audience pool in order for you to gather enough of those, entice enough of those to come purchase from you that you can actually make a profit? Are you able to produce that product, service, or experience at a cost low enough and sell it at a price high enough to generate a profit? And that we've had some products and things in the past where it just didn't work out well. So it's really helpful to analyze this before you get in too deep. And then we want to think about, how do I reach that target market through those strategies that I mentioned before? So we're going to develop, implement, and evaluate those marketing strategies after we implement them to see how they worked in meeting our objectives. So that is how we take a market-driven approach to putting together a business and a product, service, or experience that will increase your potential for success. When we're talking about a target audience, we want to think about this group of people that meets these three characteristics. So they're a portion of the population with a need or a want that your business can fulfill, the willingness to purchase a product, and the ability to purchase that product. These are your first and your best customer that are going to come to you over and over again, and be your best cheerleaders as well. So if I have a need or a want and I'm willing to purchase, but I don't have the ability to purchase at a price that's going to generate a profit for you, then I am not in your target audience, right? So if there's a need out there that people say they want, but you can't produce it at a cost low enough, or there aren't enough people to purchase that, then really there's not a viable target audience for you. All right. So Shannon here has a great question. She says, how do we know if there is a market and what they will pay? All right. So this is part science and part art. Okay. So there can be um, a lot of observation about what's available, and there can be observation about what people are missing. So, for example, I follow some social media sites on Facebook for my community. So there's I Heart Columbia and Moms of Muletown, for example. And I watch that and look for what people are talking about. And for example, during apple season, a lot of people have moved here from Michigan and other places where apple picking was huge. And people start asking, where can we go pick apples? And, where can I find apple cider donuts and that sort of thing? Well, that's an opportunity then for people, for example, to add to the conversation and ask some questions and look and see what's available. So there is certainly some of that. There's some of looking at industry trends and seeing what may be working other places that we don't have here, and then kind of investigating and asking people and getting in um, and trying to figure out, would that be viable here? And if so, like, what would you pay? Would you pay the same as going to the movie or going to the zoo or other things like that to kind of get a little bit of gauge of what's going on. So it's not a complete science, and you're never going to have a really final answer, but you can investigate and get some clues along the way. And that's where then working through a business plan with something will help you root out some of those questions and resources and if there are any obstacles in the way. I hope that helps. All right. Sorry, this clicker's not working exactly correctly. Fabulous. So, when we are talking about branding or a brand, that is certainly part of marketing. And a brand is what really brings your business to life in the minds of consumers, and in the minds of the industry. So, a brand defines your farm's identity and character and represents the image you want to portray to target customers. Your brand will differentiate your business from other businesses uh, in the market, so from the competition. So when you're developing your brand and crafting your brand, this tells the story of who you are and what you value. So when we're thinking about a brand, oftentimes we think about a logo, which is certainly a big part of a brand, but it's even more than the logo. So the brand is a combination of brand elements. It might be the name of the business, any associated words. Sometimes brands have a tagline. Um, like, we are the Center for Profitable Agriculture. That doesn't tell people a lot. We're helping farmers develop value-added enterprises. So those are associated words. You might have a symbol or a logo, and you might use certain design elements that identifies your product and the company and differentiates it from the competition. So design elements might be shapes, it might be colors, it might be certain images. So I'm going to go back to you here, and the next slide is going to show you some logos, and I would love for you to see if you can identify these companies or products just by the logos. And if you can identify one of those, then how would you describe that brand? What comes to mind when you see that logo? All right, here we go. Can anybody identify any of those logos in the chat box for me? Great. So FedEx is shipping. Pepsi, Starbucks, McDonald's, Target. Excellent, Sharon. Starbucks, coffee, the Olympics, Nike. Excellent. So many, you are picking up on a company and probably a feeling with these just from this little check mark thing or a target. um, very few of these have any um, old computers. That's right. Some the younger folks may not even recognize that. Um, but uh, we remember. So these are our brands, and yes, they are corporate. They do have, teams of marketing folks and big marketing dollars, um, and are well crafted and well defined. I will submit to you that I think you can do the same thing with your brands. And they built these not just with these logos, right? They built these with repeated, um, consistent communications and messages, whether it's through signage on the road, billboards, radio, TV, social media. Everything is very consistent and targeted. Um, they are very concise. They are very simple in many cases. And you're right, Shannon, over time, they have changed and modified as consumers have changed or as their image, they wanted to change their image. We'll say that, some of the examples of FedEx for shipping, many of you may have heard this before. Shipping, they're moving forward, right? They're moving products from one place to another. They use different colors in their logos for different parts of their business. So this one happens to be the FedEx Corporation logo, but they have different divisions and they change the colors based on that. They also have embedded within their logo an arrow. If you have seen that, let's see, I can't. Um, it is between the E and the X. And I'm not sure if I have a way to, oh, maybe I do. If you'll look right here between the E and the X, whoops, now I can get it to, there is an arrow right in here. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Um, but that is a subtle image of we're moving things forward. Okay. Let's talk about color a minute. McDonald's is, yes, there's a whole study of colors and it's fascinating. Absolutely. So red stimulates appetite and says stop. So, right, McDonald's is red and yellow. So red is stop and now you're hungry. And yellow is youthful, cheerful, um, positive, vibrant. Okay, so that makes sense. Um, Black is and gray are more premium, high level, luxury type of items. The intermittent delays just may be me processing thoughts. I hope that's not the case, and hopefully it's okay. If it is, I can also shut the video off, and we can try that. So these are very strategically made, and we are able to identify those and have a feeling behind them as to what that business stands for and what that product represents. So as we are building our brand or crafting or refining your brand, there are 6 categories that we want to think about, 6 different pieces of that brand. And I've got them all here to summarize, and then we'll go through each of those. The first is brand targeting, then brand voice, brand identity, brand promise, brand values, and brand positioning. So let's look at all of these. And it's a very strategic process of different pieces there. So we always want to start with that target audience, right? Who is your target audience? What are their needs, their values, and their preferences? Because the whole point of this brand is to speak to that target audience, what they are needing and wanting, and telling them, we are what you need and want. We have what you need or want. And so you need to come get to know us and to become our customer. So that can be challenging in a business. And agritourism is very broad. So we may have people that are thinking of offering an event menu. Well, your target audience may be, I was going to say brides and grooms, but really it's brides, okay? You've got to convince brides that you are the best venue for their wedding or other people, perhaps if you're looking at other types of event hosting. But your target audience is very specific to people who are going to or about to get engaged or just got engaged as they are planning their wedding. Other agritourism operations may be targeting families with a certain age children, maybe younger children, or maybe upper elementary children, depending upon or older children, depending upon what kind of activities and what kind of need you see in the marketplace. Communications, messages, platforms may differ broadly if you're marketing to a bride versus a family. If you're offering school field trips, then you've got to reach out to school teachers who are making the decisions for where you're going to go on field trips. So the information that you provide, the methods that you use to market, the image that you want to portray is very specific to school teachers. There are a myriad of other target audiences for different types of agritourism operations. Maybe if you're selling plants, then you're looking for people who like to garden, and maybe you're an operation that can offer some date nights or romantic getaways or specifically wine tasting operations. Well, we're looking at then a specific target audience for that type of operation. So we can see how our target audiences differ and how it's really important to start with all our marketing and branding strategy with really understanding who that group is and what they need, want, and value. The next part is your brand voice. And this is the personality that you want to share with your customers. What about your voice will resonate with your targeted audience? So, what kind of voice will resonate with that bride? Maybe it's I'm serious about taking care of your every wanted need to make this your dream event, and I will bend over backwards to do that, right? What about the voice that will resonate with a family coming to have a fun, memorable time, or a teacher, or whoever your target audience is? This brand voice can take on several different tones. Some operations might be really playful or humorous. I went to a dairy farm. Excuse me, I went to a dairy farm near Kansas City one time, and they had an on-farm retail market and did some tours and things there. And they were so humorous. They had these jokes about, the cornflake truck following their milk truck and all these funny ways of doing that on t-shirts and coffee mugs, and they had the sayings on their delivery trucks, and they were just a real playful, humorous kind of place. I've been to other other dairy farms even that are focused more on the nostalgic um, era of we've been a family farm for 6 generations, and we are adding new generations to that, and come learn about how we used to do things and how we do things now. Um, and it's very authentic, right? Others are experts in their field, and that might be you're looking at doing some school tours about pollinators or planting pumpkins and other agricultural production. Um, that might also be the innovative. So now some of the dairy farms are putting in robotic milkers, and they are on the forefront of technology and showing you how these robots are milking cows and trying to make things more efficient and effective, and how it impacts cow care. Some are serious and some are creative. So what is the voice that you want to share with your target audience? Part of that is who you are. I mean, it needs to be authentic to you, because if you're not humorous, then that's going to be really hard to pull off. Um, so it does want to be authentic, but it also has to really speak to your target audience and be consistent with what they need, want, and value. Brand identity refers to how you can make your brand visually recognizable and appealing to your target audience. So thinking back to those logos from those corporations we talked about, are there certain colors, shapes, images, or even font styles that really back up the brand that you're trying to make, the image that you're trying to portray, and the voice that you're trying to portray through your brand? So if we think about farms, we have some of that nostalgic, um, here is a well-used, well-loved older tractor, that we used to use when I was growing up. So those colors, not as vibrant red, more earthy, images of older type things might be good for an authentic, nostalgic kind of farm. There are farms that are looking for that family fun time that might be more your storybook farm with bright, vibrant colors, cartoonish characters. And there might be others. I mentioned the robotic milker. That's why it was on my mind. Are looking more the expert, efficient, sustainable, innovative farmer. And then, so those kinds of images maybe maybe more representative of that, if that makes sense. I'm gonna check the chat box. All right, we're good. Brand promise then is about what makes your product a match for your specific target audience. So how are you consistent with their values and their needs and preferences? This can also relate to how are you better or unique from the competition. We don't want to bash any competition, but we need to stand out in a positive way from our on competition. And we probably aren't going to be cheaper. We don't want to play the cheaper game in this business. But how are you how are you better or unique and a better fit? How are you a good fit for your target audience? So this might include a promise about we're cultivating healthy farms and families, or we're all about growing traditions and harvesting memories with your family, or we're interested in sowing seeds of knowledge. So how can you connect what you do, the benefit that you provide, to the needs of your customers, what they're looking for um, out there in the marketplace? From there, we talk about brand values in our branding kind of plan. So, what are values or principles that guide your farm business that will resonate with your target customers. So, what's important to you that's also important to your customers? And when you can talk about those things, it builds rapport and relationships and solidifies your brand in their mind and also builds the value of that brand in their brain. So some things that come to mind related to farms, and these are all just examples, might be environmental sustainability. That is seems to be important to a lot of consumers. We're talking about water and air and trash and how can we keep our environment safe for generations to come. Some people are really passionate about advocating for agriculture. And some consumers are like, I remember visiting my grandparents' farm and I want to learn more about that, or I want my children to learn more about that. Farmland preservation um, is important. Some consumers are really interested in humane treatment of animals and farmers, producers, ranchers that have animals. How are you involved in caring for your animals and making sure that they are healthy and well and those things? Food security, support for your local economy, physical and mental health, those are huge topics. How does getting outside and playing and putting your phone down, you have a place for that and a way to advocate for that. And a lot of people, consumers, are recognizing that they need to do that as well. And you can be a perfect place to do that. So again, what is important to your customers? What's important to you? Where can you come together and communicate and share about that? Brand positioning is the sixth and final piece of crafting your brand. And this is then kind of putting it all together. What image do you want your brand to hold in the minds of your target customer? So if you could choose what you wanted this customer to think about you, what exactly would you want that to be? And this positioning statement then can be used as you're developing your products and your pricing and your promotions and service plans and all of your brand elements, your logos and things to check against. And if what you're doing is not consistent with this brand positioning, then we need to reconsider and make it consistent with this positioning. Your brand positioning is really ideal in a sweet spot. Here on this image, I'm going to try to highlight it again. I'm not very good at this, but we'll try it here in this area here. That is the overlap of what your customer wants and what your brand does best, but is outside of what your competition does best, right? So if you put it there where your competition does best as well, then you've got to fight against them. But if you have an area where you are unique at what you do best from your competitors that overlaps what your competition wants, that's the best place, that's an ideal place that you can be. The most effective and efficient brand positioning. Sorry, one way to work out a brand positioning statement is to use a formula like this one. So for the target audience, your brand name is the market category leader that differentiates so they, your target audience, can benefit. So an example here, for families with small children, Circle L Farm is the local fruit grower that provides wholesome food and family experiences so they can live fruitful, happy, healthy lives. That is just an example of a brand positioning that If I were a fruit farm, I might want that to be what consumers think about me. And then I could use this to say, okay, I'm developing this social media campaign. Is that campaign telling these families with small children? First of all, I'm going to target those folks that we are a local fruit grower that provides them with wholesome food and family experiences. Okay, and we want them to be happy and healthy. All right. So let's turn this around and get some feedback from you. Those of you who have businesses or have something knocking around in their brains about what your brand might say. Um, what are some terms that come to mind when thinking of your brand? Um, that might be pieces of your image or your positioning or something to that effect. Let's see what you got. Inspirational, educational. Love that. Family friendly, educational, experience, naturally based. Great. Pasture raised, regenerative farming, veteran owned. Those are powerful words to consumers for sure. I love that. And that is great. Three different brands and logos because you have three different products or three different target audience, right? That is absolutely right. And some people do that. They might have farm family fun and school tours. Well, we've got to do different marketing to those two different target audiences. Calming and relaxing. Whew, couldn't we all use some of that? That sounds really good. Excellent. So as we craft our brand and are ready to implement it, then we have a few tips for brand implementation. Be mindful of your target audience needs, values, and preferences. Always, and I know I sound like a broken record, but it is so important. Focusing on that narrow target will pay big dividends. That target audience needs, values, and preferences. It is very important to offer a high quality product, service, and experience, and offer that high quality product, service, or experience consistently because no amount of marketing, no amount of marketing money can overcome um, people visiting and having a terrible experience over and over, on a widespread basis. Something will go wrong, um, probably on a daily basis, but also how you handle that can be helpful if you are consistently offering a high quality product, service, or experience. That can be overcome. But your brand work is not going to matter much if you don't do that piece first. Be authentic to who you are. If you are, I'm thinking of one farmer in particular here. If you are a farmer who is out working in overalls and boots and that's who you are. Be authentic to who you are. You're not going to show up in your marketing in a tuxedo, right? So, um, if you're a goofy, playful person, don't try to be the serious person in all of your marketing. Be authentic to who you are, um, for sure. If you're regenerative, portray regenerative. If you're not regenerative, don't portray regenerative. That is going to come out. All of those things, and people will question your credibility. Be consistent in the image you portray. So that's why it's really important to define what your image is that you're going to portray and really work to be that. Because if you are inconsistent and showing different sides of your personality or showing things that are not authentic one time and authentic one time, then that's going to be really hard for consumers to have you earn that place in your brain, right? The more consistent, the same all the time, the same logo, the same colors, the same fonts, the same similar messages that are all consistent, you're going to earn that spot in their brain and their hearts a lot faster than if you're kind of all over the place. It's really important to key in on points of customer interaction. So where are customers at in your supply chain and in your operation, where the product that you're offering and the environment that you produce and the services you offer all come together. Um, Wherever you touch your customers in those spheres, we also need to be consistent in our branding. So that's from the style of trash can that you have at your farm to the signage to the you know what people say at the checkout stand, or I'm thinking of Chick-fil-A, they don't say thank you, they say, or you're welcome, they say it's my pleasure. So how can you implement your brand into every piece of your operation wherever your customers um, are touching you, on your social media page, on your website, at the farm, at the farmer's market if you go there? We also need to think about how your brand's concept can be shared and received through all five senses. So, what customers see, what they hear, what they smell, and that can be really good or really bad at a farm, right? What they taste. Sampling is huge if you have things that people can sample. And touching is big, being able to tactily hold things and experience things through touch and all of the senses. The more senses you can include into um, your brand concept and then also your experience later, um, is really valuable. That feeds the brain, and that real estate in your brain we're looking to earn in the minds of consumers. Be intentional about sharing your brand. If you go about all about this work, and I hope you will, to strategize and build out a brand, then we need to share it. Your logo can go as many places as you can get it. Your logo and tagline can go in the signature of your email, on a brochure that's mailed to teachers, on social media images, as your profile image, on the side of your truck, your URL to your website, how you find your social media pages, all of those can go in the signature to your website, go on everything that you can to get that brand and that message out there and connect with people. And that takes some doing and concentration and focus in doing that. Strategies that will help in doing that. Amy Ladd, who you will hear from on Wednesday of next week of Lucky Lad Farms, does a lot of really great marketing for her farm. And these were some of her tips. Invest in high quality photos. Hire or barter a professional photographer to, take some photos of your farm to be able to really show people what you are all about. And you want those photos to be consistent with your brand and your image, right? So you have to point them in the right direction, tell them what you're looking for, and then be able to use those on your website and social media posts. Tell your story. Again, we're authentic, and we are connecting with people about who we are. Um, And so consumers are really interested in learning about you. Develop an effective website. People go there before they do anything else to figure out whether they're going to come see you or purchase your product. Dominate social media. Now, you may not be able to dominate every platform, but figure out the most used, most effective platform for your target audience. So, and there's some research out there we can help point you to some of that. And I've got some other resources at the end that may be helpful for that. Choose what you can do and do it well on that social media platform. And then encourage customer photos and reviews to your social media, to things like Yelp or Google and things like that to work that word of mouth and help spread your brand awareness. We have some relatively new publications about branding that are all available on our website, on our program areas page. You can look under those under marketing essentials for that. A general publication about branding, a publication more specifically about applying place branding principles to your brand, and that might be a region or an area or specific to your farm. And then journey mapping is a tool that you can use if you have an existing brand to kind of work through and see if you can identify any pain points or obstacles in your customer interaction process and in your marketing that causes issues with your customers so that you can try to overcome those and correct those issues. Now, we could spend weeks talking about marketing. So I've chosen to talk about some key concepts to marketing and branding. But we have some great session recordings on YouTube from a monthly series that have been going on for several years called Daring to Learn. And there's more details about branding and marketing, websites, influencer matchmaking, short form and long form video, basic social media tactics, more in depth on business suite basics, using Canva, principles of layout and design, and visual branding and e-commerce, and there's more. So, as you dive in a little bit more this winter, when it's yucky outside, although can't believe this weather we're having today, but when it's yucky outside or you have trouble sleeping, check out the Daring to Learn on our YouTube channel and catch up on some marketing topics. So some key points to remember from our marketing and branding session. Marketing involves both planning and executing, and then evaluating and planning some more and executing some more. Understanding the target audience is vital for marketing and branding. If you miss that, then you miss the whole thing. It's really important to take time to strategize and to make sure that your branding and your marketing are all consistent with that brand positioning and the image that you want to portray to customers. We'll pause right here for just a minute to see if we have any questions about marketing, and then we'll dive into creating a customer experience.